Shock reveal. Thomas used the money to gag Meghan's dark past. Dirty high school game.
An old friend of Meghan Markle's just revealed that it may have been the rage in the decade of the 90s to use contact adhesive, but exactly who is going to use super glue on fellow classmates except for a delusional person named Meghan Markle? That poor girl unfortunately was silenced, and she couldn't come forward. She was probably forced to sign an NDA after being financially compensated. Ugh, that is some nasty, vicious sorority BS, and Meghan's pathetic excuse as usual is probably that she was going to do somebody's lashes at the time, and somehow she got mixed up with her eyelash glue and her super glue. But anyway, by supergluing another poor girl's eyelashes and causing that victim so much pain and distress, poor Papa Thomas Markle had to come in and save the day. He had to bail her out once again, supposedly having to pay a lot of money in compensation just to keep everything quiet. In Meghan's time at Northwestern University, that she obviously doesn't like to talk about now, she was a wild, curly-haired teenager even as a student. In her wild youth just loved partying, and apparently she even got her own fake ID so that she could buy herself some booze as well as go out to clubs, all the while trying to get attention, even from the camera lens. And a friend added it was Meghan Markle who committed that heinous crime, which was reported in international papers at the time, but the teenage offender was underage, if I recall, maybe 18 years, but won't be quoted on that. But I will search Trove for the incident, which I do recall, mainly because superglue was so revolutionary as a quick fix. I mean, what a scary thing. I suspect that many parents locked the super glue away after hearing about that little incident. They were probably scared their kids were going to do the same thing. I mean, it's pretty easy to cause injury with a substance like that. And actually, I heard a story too about a boy who, I don't know who he was, but he was brought into the ER with his finger stuck together. So kids would hear their parents talking about news events, and they would get some ideas into their heads without understanding the serious consequences. Actually, superglue was responsible for a few different medical interventions in the ER after that U.S. news release, which I suspect may have been the Meghan Markle event. That NDA should be lifted, and Meghan should have to face up to her criminal past. She's been able to get away with so much during her lifetime, and that is the reason that Meghan doesn't have any morals. And it's not like this was some good deed that somehow went tragically wrong. It was a serious assault, and apparently the head of the college decided that she wouldn't be allowed to set foot on the campus until the two girls had finished their degrees, and then she could resume her studies. So that explains the difference of 2 years for her graduating compared to the rest of her class. It all just leads to so much confusion about how old she really is. Her father had to pay a lot of money in compensation, and he had to organize the silencing agreements. So it's not really surprising to discover that after she got Harry, nobody was allowed to speak with her father. He knows way too many secrets, and he has to be silenced at all costs. Now, Doria is a criminal anyway, and she is useful for pulling the race card, so she's also under strict instructions to keep her mouth shut. What do you think that $10 million was really for? Meghan is one sick puppy indeed, and she has encouraged the very worst of Harry to come out. It's horrible that in the beginning she was welcomed into the heart of the royal family, but she just couldn't hide her evil ways for long. And I've also read a different narrative of that whole story. I also read that what really happened was that Meghan glued the eyelashes of two young sorority sisters shut, and she did it because she was worried that people were going to say they were more beautiful than her. Well, I'd believe it because she hasn't changed a bit. She is still so jealous of people who look better than her, people who are in any way better than her, even though that's most people. So her daddy had to pay for the victim sorority sister's silence, and then they had to sign NDAs. And the university apparently kicked her out after the victims had already graduated ahead of her. If you ask me, that is a recipe for chronic depression, being jealous of everybody ahead of you in so many different ways. See, I don't deny it. I know there are a lot of people out there who are better than me in so many different ways, and that's just fine. But anyway, having to pay off the sorority sisters could also explain why her father had to file for bankruptcy. An incident like that would have necessitated emergency medical intervention, and it could end a university student's career before it had even started. Let's remember, Meghan's father was an Academy Award-winning lighting director on the second most-watched TV series in the US at the time. It seems like often people forget that fact. News about Thomas Markle's own daughter causing such severe injuries to a fellow student would probably have been reported in the media if it had actually reached the media. I mean, maybe Meghan acted like that was some kind of prank. Well, that could have permanently disfigured those poor girls, and that should have been a criminal offense. If the prank happened, as has been described, and the injury could have been treated, the instigator is incredibly lucky that they were still able to pay off the victim and request an NDA. So it looks like when Meghan Markle was in university, she was out getting drunk all the time, probably stoned too, and also super gluing the eyelashes of people shut, at the same time as fun-loving Prince Harry was getting in trouble for himself for drinking too much and doing too many drugs. It's hardly shocking that they go together so well. See, intelligent people understand how to avoid the pitfalls of jealousy. They understand that it's important to show gratitude at all times and to be the best person we can be, and understand that people don't like you for the way you look. It's about how you treat people, how you are on the inside. Anyway, it's not all fun and games being beautiful, because beautiful people actually need to work a lot harder at getting friends, because usually people feel pretty threatened by them. The best source of this being true is the fact that nobody has been sued to overstate it, and since it's been reported multiple times over a few different years with no suits being filed, I mean by the two of them who love to file lawsuits, I think that it's probably true. Another factor is that a university will usually prefer to handle transgressions like this on their own. They are very rarely prosecuted through legal channels. They're almost always kept very quiet, and they are handled with NDAs and payoffs. The university is going to push for this as much as they can. See, they don't want their reputations to take a hit. People can say whatever they want about why this cover-up happened, but the truth is, at the time, the sorority would have had more of an interest to hush up the incident than anybody else involved, because this would affect future donations and membership too. It could also make the alums look bad, and it could affect their personal, career, social, financial, and even more opportunities. I am certain this sorority, as well as other sororities, fraternities, and secret organizations, have in the past covered up hazing incidents because they're trying to protect their organization. Part of being in a sorority is that you basically pledge to protect everybody, future members, current members, and past members if they get into some type of trouble. And I understand there's some comment somewhere from somebody claiming that it's a bald-faced lie and that it didn't happen, and that her sorority sisters thought that she was really kind. My goodness, the extent to which some people will go to help cover up Meghan's nasty behavior is simply baffling. She's a nasty, cruel liar. She's a bully. She's incredibly vindictive. Why is anybody trying to cover up that? But anyway, whether or not it's going to come to light at this time, we're not sure of. What about you? What do you think about this horrible behavior? Join us to find out the truth in the next updates. And don't forget that I am always here for you. And don't be afraid to click the subscribe button to get more updates in the future. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a lovely weekend, and we'll be back to see you all tomorrow.